Hey guys, Chris here from Lifeline EMS Training. This will round out our EKG basics. The hook the patient up. What do these rhythms mean to me? And this one, it's 2.0.1. Hey, check this out, squiggles. The ones where EMT, EMR hooks the patient up and something just doesn't look right. And they want to let somebody know now. So we'll review the basic ECG here real quick. P wave is atrial depolarization. It's that first positive inflection. So then the signal holds up in the AV node in the PR segment. And then the QRS is ventricular depolarization. And the T wave is ventricular repolarization, the recharging of the ventricles. So first rhythm here, we have our monitor going across the hey, you should let somebody know about it. So we have our P wave. So we have a little squiggle, then our narrow QRS. So it's definitely coming from the top of the heart. So this would be, because it has a P wave with every QRS, this is a sinus something. In this instance, it's a tachycardia. So this would be sinus tachycardia. The rhythm impulse is triggered by the sinus node or SA node. But what we want to let somebody know is this fast heart rate. That's a really fast heart rate for a patient to be sitting down as you're hooking them up to the monitor. This would be the heart rate you would see if you're on a treadmill working out or you're running or pushing yourself or exerting yourself. This isn't something somebody should be just sitting there hanging out with a heart rate of 127. So our first, hey, check this out, is a tachycardia, is the high tachycardia, is 120s plus. That would be a showstopper of, hey, can you look over here at this real quick for me? But again, P wave for every QRS, narrow QRS coming from the top, sinus tachycardia. How about this one? Nice, wide, bizarre, regular rhythm, but it's going fast. It's definitely above that 150. And 150 is kind of that rhythm number we look for in adults. When it's above 150, we really want to go, hey, I need you to take a peek at this. So it's wide and fast. Remember in the last video we talked about in 2.0, it was wide. We assume it's ventricular until proven otherwise because it's going against that normal vector. So it takes more time. It's like those trout swimming upriver. So this one would be a VTAC. In this case, we see a pulse ox pleth with every QRS. So this would be VTAC with a pulse. Definitely a concerning rhythm. It's not an efficient rhythm, doesn't last very long. Body doesn't like it, heart doesn't like it. Guarantee the patient would otherwise have let you know also. Usually you don't run somebody with isolated toe pain or ear pain and you find them in VTAC. This would be that person with lightheadedness, chest pain, back pain, neck pain, jaw pain. They feel like they're going to pass out. But this would be VTAC, so that wide complex tachycardia, wide rhythm above 150, going fast along. And in this instance, we know they have a pulse because the pulse ox pleth matches. Just a one quick catch over here in the corner, that low end tidal tells you you have diminished perfusion. That would be a concern as well. How about this one? Well, it's weird, right? It's really fast. So it's a fast rhythm. It's regular. Boof, 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 boof. But what don't we see? We don't see a P wave before that QRS, but it's still narrow. So where's it coming from? This is actually coming from the node, the AV node. That resistor in the middle has a generated impulse because it's either become irritated or spun up or spinning out. So this is a rapid atrial tachycardia. So this rhythm right here doesn't have a P wave, but is still narrow, so it's still coming from the top. This is an SVT. That is, SVT is a blanket term. You'll commonly hear it thrown around. It's supraventricular tachycardia, above the ventricles tachycardia. So tachycardia is above a rate of 150 that generate from above the ventricles, so narrow in nature. This person's in rapid atrial tachycardia. This is your adenosine patient. You've heard people talk about, let's give him some adenosine. This would be a prime candidate for adenosine. How about this one? About the same number, but look at it, it's regular. QRSs look a little wonky, right? So it's irregular, narrow, but fast. This is atrial fibrillation with rapid ventricular response, or rapid atrial fibrillation. So it's atrial fibrillation above 150. Some books it's 120, some books it's 130. Most people just say, hey, let's keep it simple. Above 150s, those are our concerning tachycardias. So it's irregular, but it's fast. And you can notice by the pulse ox pleth, it's irregular. But actually, there's one little trick here. So you can hear rhythmicity better than you can see it. So close your eyes. I'm going to play a couple rhythms for you. Tell me which one's regular and which one's irregular. So is that regular or irregular? Yeah, that was regular. How about this one? So regular or irregular? Yeah, that one was irregular. So that was that rapid AFib one. The first one was the rapid atrial tachycardia. So the AFib in this instance. So this is AFib with a fast rate. How about this one? So we have our P, QRS is narrow, coming from the top. T waves recharging. P, a little bit longer PR segment, narrow QRS, T waves recharging. P, longer PR segment, narrow QRS T. P, no QRS. So this one skips. This one has a dropped beat. You see it here too, right? We have that pause. So we have the SA node impulse depolarizing the atria, but the signal never goes down to the ventricle. Whoop, but we pick it up back here. And then we have this prolonging PR segment until we get a drop beat. So this is one that has skipped beats. That would be one you would want to say, hey, take a look at this. Because we have these pause points, right? The heart rate 64 electronically or electrically, but it's not in terms of perfusions. We're getting these pauses here. So this is a second degree type 1. So this person has a second degree type 1, just kind of a gee whiz thing. This is actually an AV nodal problem. The AV node is sending it down the fast side, sending it down the slow side, holding it longer in the slow side, and then just not even transmitting that beat. And then we have just slow, right? So somebody that's less than 60, really, when you start to see 50 or less, that's when somebody wants to get the, hey, take a look at this. So we have a P wave. So atrial in nature, atrial depolarizes, narrow QRS afterwards, T wave recharging. So sinus something. They're matching, they're pulsing. So this is a sinus bradycardia because of the rate. So that would be a, hey, take a look at this real quick. And we see a low perfusion because the end tidal's low. How about this one? So this is a slow and a skip. So we got skip beats and it's slow. So we got those P waves that don't have always an associated friend of a QRS with them. So we have drop beats and we have QRSs that don't always have P waves with them. So what do you think's happening here? You have these P waves that are doing their own thing at their normal rate. Poof, 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 poof. And you have the ventricles that are doing their own thing. Poof, poof. In this instance, there's a damage to the junction. So this person has what's called a third degree or a high degree heart block. What's happening is the atria is sending its signal down on the phone line, trying to make the phone call, thinking that it's just talking. You never have that phone call where you're just talking and it's disconnected, but you don't realize it yet? That's a third degree heart block. Atria is sending its impulse down. Ventricles are getting irritated because they're not getting a phone call from the atria because there's a break in the line at the junction just below the AV node. And so they start to pick up the slack because they don't want the heart to not beat. So they start to go on their own 40 to 60 beat per minute rate. And so what you see here is you see AV disassociation. The atria is doing its thing and the ventricle is doing its thing. And they're just not even talking. That's definitely a, hey, take a look at this. Something doesn't look right. They're skipped and slow. How about this one? We talked about this in the last video. So we got P, QRS narrow, T waves recharging, sinus something, slow rate bradycardia, but we have those extra beats that are out of cycle. In this case, they're wide and bizarre. So these are ventricular. And if we look over here, they have failed pulsation. That's a problem. Hey, take a look at this. Something's not right here, right? We have electricity, but we don't have mechanical function. Definitely one. So these are ectopic beats or PVCs that are not perfusing, non-perfusing ectopy. How about this one? Man, this just doesn't look right, right? It's wide and bizarre. There's no P wave with it. It is pulsating. Hey, take a look at this. What this one is this is actually a high right coronary occlusion or heart attack in the right coronary artery. And this is what happens inferiorly. So when the heart cells start to die, the potassium that's inside leaks outside in the area where those heart cells are dying. So what happens is you get a localized hyperkalemia or elevated potassium. Well, just like with your T wave, when you get repolarization, you get that change in potassium. So what happens when you get heart cell death, or as the tissue starts to become damaged, the T waves become tall and then they start to blend with the QRS. So one of the early signs of, or one of the signs of a heart attack, if you have that STEMI, is that T wave blending with the QRS or hyperacute T waves, where they become high, greater than half the height of the QRS, because the cells are lysing or releasing the intracellular potassium. That's just kind of a cool gee whiz thing. At the end of the day, when you see a rhythm that you're like, that just doesn't look right, that's definitely one where you stop and say, hey, can you take a look at this? So that was a review on some of the rhythms you may see when you hook the patient up to the monitor and you do a quick once over, checking the signal quality of your ECG, making sure that you have good crisp waveforms. And when you have one going across that just doesn't look right, can you take a look at this? Hopefully you remember that these are some of the instances that you definitely want to stop and have somebody take a look at this. So hope that helped. As always, you can hit us up at info@lifelineemstraining.com, and we hope you have a great day.